I understand you actually saw Terrence Bradley earlier today. He's out and about practicing law and doing his job. And do we expect him to show up in Judge McAfee's court today at 2?
Well, great to be with you again, of course, Megan. Here's the thing about today. It's all about what is and what is not attorney-client privilege. And so, look, if you are my client and you tell me where you buried the body, I can't talk about it ever. But if I see you burying the body, that's a different story, right? So Ashley Merchant, a few weeks ago, in one of her responses to something the state had filed on this very issue, she says that Bradley has non-privileged personal knowledge that he can testify to that this affair began prior to Willis being sworn in as the district attorney in January of 2021.
But
so
he denied that. He denied that on February 15th.
Well, yeah, he did. 16th. And so now we're in the situation where if he denies this again today, if she has any prior statements that he may have made, and this is where we were talking about the text messages and things like that. If he has ever said anything contrary to that, if Ms. Merchant has this documented, she can confront him with the prior inconsistent statement. And that inconsistent statement, if it exists, can be used as substantive evidence in the case. So that is what the judge is going to have to consider here is there any corroboration that Mr. Bradley can bring to the issue that would corroborate Robin Yurdy, that would corroborate the cell phone data? And if so, the judge can believe that Terrence Bradley and Fani Willis were lying about the cash payments, because this all relates back to that. It's this personal financial benefit that is at issue. And if the judge believes that they are not telling the truth about this, he is entitled and should disbelieve their testimony about the cash reimbursements. So we're all going back to the very beginning here, and we're going to have to sort out whether or not there was a personal financial benefit to the point that Fani Willis had a conflict of interest. Prosecutors cannot have a financial interest in even the existence of a case. And that is what this is about. We're talking about fundamental fairness, due process. And if the case goes away because of a due process violation, then so be it. We've got to have a fair system. If prosecutors are not fair-minded, and if they don't play by the rules, we don't even get to the point of having a trial in the case. So it's important to remember that this is about fundamental fairness. It's about due process. It's all very interesting, this sideshow that we have now. It's a circus, basically, right here in Fulton County. It's like the real lawyers of Atlanta. There's got to be some kind of a reality TV show that could be made out of this, because it's really quite disturbing. The judge is going to have to decide about the conflict of interest. But here's the other thing. If she's lied to the court, if anybody has lied to the court, the judge, in my opinion, has really a duty to do something about it. And what could that look like? Well, he could hold them in contempt and throw them in jail if he believes they've lied. He could refer them to the state bar. He could refer them to maybe the attorney general's office to see if they've committed the crime of perjury. This is a disbarable offense if there's been a fraud perpetrated on the court. And by the way, it doesn't matter if a lawyer says something false to a judge that's under oath or not. We have the ethical obligation of candor to the court. We've got to be honest, even in things that we put in writing. So this is why I say that this pleading that Ashley Merchant filed, where she details what she believes Terrence Bradley is going to say, she has to have a good faith basis for that. You heard prosecutors call her a liar. They said you don't have a good faith basis. Well, today, Megan, is the day that Ashley Merchant gets to tell us, and I think we're going to get to see what her good faith basis was. And that's really what's at the heart of all of this.
Here we have a little bit of that. Fani Willis attacking Ashley Merchant as soon as she got on the stand, the witness stand, Fani did, suggesting that the lawyer had lied for the basis of the disqualification motion because it was based in part on what Merchant admitted she'd been told by Terrence Bradley. We all watched Ashley Merchant tell the judge that when they were pressing her on what her evidence is, that this affair began long before the two said it did, and so on and so forth. And Fani Willis took that stand loaded for bear and unleashed a can on Ashley Merchant. Here's a bit of it in SOT 3.
Did you listen to any of the arguments?
I did hear the arguments this morning. It's ridiculous to me that you lied on Monday, and yet here we still are. And I did listen to that argument.
All right, so that was it, just the argument, no testimony.
Right, I listened to the argument this morning where Adam Abadi, I thought, did an excellent job pointing out how dishonest you were with the court on Monday. And I'm actually surprised that the hearing continued, but since it did, here I am.
Did you meet with Mr. Wade and talk to him about the motion that I filed to disqualify you?
On January, this first January motion?
Yes.
I don't know if you could say talked about. I probably had some choice words about some of the things that you said that were dishonest within this motion. But it seems today that a lawyer writes a lie and then it's printed for all of the world to see. When I met him, Judge Reeves introduced us. He handed me his business card. I'm unsure if I handed him my business card, but we exchanged information. He said, if you ever need any help, give me a call. And he walked to the parking lot.
So after that, you started dating shortly thereafter, correct?
A lie. That's one of your lies.
Okay.
So virtually every time she mentioned that word lie in that first exchange was a reference to Terrence Bradley. She didn't say it explicitly, but that's what she was talking about, because Ashley told the court, I spoke with this guy, he gave me texts, and then the other side said, oh, you never actually spoke to him, and she said, well, I have text messages, you can see my whole phone, I'll introduce it into evidence if you want. And then Bradley had been up there saying, all right, he's like, they knew he wasn't going to give it up once actually asked to say it under oath. So she thought she was going to get away with just calling Ashley Merchant a liar. And now that bill's coming due today at 2.
Yeah, well, I know Ashley Merchant. I've known her for a long time. She's been a guest on my podcast, and we've had cases together. She's not the type of person, in my view, that's going to take this allegation laying down. If she's got a good faith basis, I expect she's going to try to present that today. She says in this pleading, she says more specifically. She says Bradley has information about the relationship between Wade and Willis directly from Wade, and not in the context of him seeking legal advice. She goes on to say that Bradley has personal knowledge that Wade and Willis regularly stayed together at her home until Willis' father moved in sometime in 2020. So she's telling us in this pleading, she's telling the court that Bradley knows this stuff. How does she know what Bradley knows unless Bradley has told her what he knows? Mm-hmm. So that's what this is really about. We're going to see today exactly what kind of cards Ms. Merchant is holding. I think we might see the text messages. We've talked a lot about those, and in the past, it seems like those text messages were really going to be the smoking gun. But if there's direct testimony today from Mr. Bradley, as Ashley Merchant has said would happen in this pleading, then we won't need the text messages. On the other hand, if there's a discrepancy between what he has said to her in the past, or what she believes he said, or what she can prove he said, if there's a discrepancy, then she's going to come out with the prior statements. And so then the judge, gets to weigh, what has he said in the past versus what he's saying now under oath. And the judge is going to have to decide which of that to believe. But one thing that I know for sure is that Ashley Merchant's not going to take these claims laying down. She's not going to sit by and have anybody call her a liar. She's not going to sit by and have anybody say that she doesn't have a good faith basis for making this claim. And so
Phil,
I'm going to be sitting here.
Like I watched Nathan Wade, not Nathan Wade, I watched him too, but I watched Terrence Bradley the first time, and he tried to wiggle, like nobody's business, out of saying anything. Every answer was slow.
Yeah.
Then another word would come. No, I'm imitating him. Long pauses where you're like, oh my God, is he done? Like he's not saying anything. And then it would be these long pauses in between his words where he would wind up saying absolutely nothing other than privilege, it's privilege, it's privilege. So it seems to me pretty clear that this judge has now said those assertions of privilege are not valid. That's what they were arguing over, whether he could assert the privilege in response to these questions about when the affair began, what he saw with his own eyes, and so on. And this judge has now overruled the objections in chambers and in this order, which we haven't yet seen ourselves because it was emailed to the council last night, but it wasn't posted on the docket. In any event, I read you the words according to the Times of what he ordered. So do you believe, at least in the judge's mind, that it's time for Terrence Bradley to answer the question, when did the affair begin? What was the nature of the relationship prior to 2022?
Yeah, so I'm glad that the judge has ruled that there was no attorney-client privilege that would apply. So that would tend to, I think, help Mr. Bradley feel better about freely testifying, because he doesn't want to take the stand and testify if he thinks that he's giving up attorney-client privilege. So hopefully we'll get to the bottom of all of this. Undoubtedly, there's going to be some knowledge that he has that's attorney-client privilege because he was the lawyer on the divorce. I think he filed the complaint for divorce. So clearly there's some degree of attorney-client privilege. But what we don't know is how much latitude the judge is going to give the parties. We don't know if there's some things that are still off limits. We're going to have to wait and see how the judge rules on this.
Do you owe back taxes? Pandemic relief is now over. Along with hiring thousands of new agents and field officers, the IRS has kicked off 2024 by sending over 5 million pay-up letters to those who have unfiled tax returns or balances owed. Oh, joy. Don't waive your rights and speak with them on your own. Tax Network USA, a trusted tax relief firm, has saved over $1 billion in back taxes for their clients, and they can help you secure the best deal possible. Whether you owe 10 grand or 10 million, they can help you. Whether it's business or personal taxes, even if you have the means to pay or you are on a fixed income, they can help financially resolve your tax burdens once and for all. Call 1-800-245-6000 for a private free consultation or visit tnusa.com/Megan. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.